Hi everyone. It's a Sunday, the 15th of August, and we are past 5 o'clock, and we apologize for that. We had technical issues, but other than that, we are here. So welcome, and to those on Facebook, welcome to those on Zoom, to those who will be listening from YouTube. So welcome, guys. And when you come through and listen to this, just type if it's a replay and also just greet us so that we know that you are part of this. I am transformation coach Mashudu. I'm also other people know me by Ntieni. Other names is Katie. So you can call me by the name that suits you best. And I'm also a negative emotional therapy practitioner, and I'm also a methodologist. What does a transformation coach do? So basically, I help people who have issues with their limiting beliefs and also negative emotions which are sabotaging their lives. I also help them to get rid of their emotional and their mental baggages as well so that they can master their lives, so that they can be successful in this world. So it just being their accountability partner and their helper will all be able to assist them utilizing different coaching, healing, and therapy techniques. So it could be someone who's going through depression, someone who's got issues with relationships, someone who needs to forgive someone, which was something we're talking about earlier in the other session. So the list is endless. So I invite you and welcome you to this conversation, and I've got a lovely guest today. And what is Join the Conversation? Join the Conversation is about where I'm talking to different women from all walks of life, and I know it's August and happy Women's Day, Women's Month to everyone. But I felt like let's choose this month, and I've been challenged to continue doing this. So we'll be doing this until the rest of the year. And coming back to join the conversation is whereby different women from all walks of life who come and share their message, come and share the lesson learned, who come and plant seeds and empower and inspire other people and just make them see that there is something that they can do because we are going through the most as society, as a country, as the world, wherever you might be going through. Because you might see somebody smiling and you don't know what they're going through. You might see somebody looking to do something. And what I love with these conversations that, as I said, is from different walks of life. Each person has got a message for someone who will be listening to this. So there is never a coincidence. And that is what I love about the universe. So I welcome you on this journey. Please be with us. Share this on your timeline. You might find that within your circles there's someone who needs to hear this message. So that's it about me. Let me introduce and welcome my guest. And can she introduce herself? You can introduce yourself, you can unmute for us, and yes, let's chat. I can't hear you, you're on mute.
Let me.
You're still on mute.
Coach Mashudu, okay, let me. I am unmuted, but for some reason, I can't show both the video and unmute myself. So if that's okay with you, can I just talk and I will then show I'll show the photo.
That's fine with me because I saw that we've got issues
That's
with
fine.
today. Yeah, it's
Okay,
okay.
not a problem. Yeah, it's I'm having a problem showing both the camera as well as unmuting myself. But let me not waste any more time. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Feel free to stop me. I'm a speaker, so feel free to stop me if there is any question or if you cannot hear me, there are any like maybe technical difficulties or anything. Um, my name is Nozibele Zondi, like you said. I hope it is okay that I mix both is Xhosa and English. It's a Sunday, but so yeah, English data bundles are depleted. Um, I have watched some of those conversations and been very inspired. And the whole thing for me, I think the conferences are just, they serve as a reminder of the things that we take for granted, things like revisiting our goals, um, things like, reflecting, because most of the time we get stuck in just the day to day, in the day to day doing of things, just being um, employees, parents, spouses, and just as a disclaimer before I go into my talk for today, I think it's very important to mention that being on this platform is by no means positioning anyone or myself for myself as an expert. It is just merely sharing lived experiences with the hope that somebody who is going through or who has questions um, might have their questions answered and might maybe eliminate a mistake which has already been done by another person. It is not to say anyone is an expert, but it is just to share the journey that we have traveled. Yesterday, coach, you asked if I had any topic or theme for my talk. And honestly, I didn't have until this morning. And I feel like we should be talking about embracing change. It's good or bad. One thing that we know is change is constant and it is sometimes uncomfortable. Why embracing change? I think from last year, we were presented with a challenging pandemic, which was COVID. And that shook a lot of the people. Some people had to change jobs, some people lost jobs, and some people had to transition from being employed to looking at options of self-employment and things like those. However, I think for me, I have learned not to look at the discomfort of the change per se and look at it as an opportunity. And if I may, I am going to use my own lived experiences because I come from a corporate background. I deliberately did not introduce myself with what I do for a living because I've learned that I need to know who I am before, and uh, I shouldn't be defined by what I do for a living or what I have. Now, just for the purposes of this conversation and as a way of background, um, I am the managing member and the founder for a company called Nubia Advertising and Promotion. That is a business in the media space. So just to put in the picture those who are not aware. So there is the media, there is like the entertainers that are like on your face and everything. And I'm going to talk about radio, which is the space that I'm in. So with radio, you would have like the media business, you would have your DJs and everything. But there is another side um, of business in media, which is the advertising. So literally, media platforms survive and pay for their expenses by advertising that would be made from that media platform. So that is what I do for a living. How I got into media, actually, that is what I have done all my life. How I got into media, and I am going to link it up to the change, is I grew up just like any ordinary Black woman. I grew up in the Eastern Cape. I went to school. I went to tertiary. I followed basically what every girl is meant to follow, whereby you would have to study, get your internship, and start working. And I ended up with an internship. I studied marketing, and I ended up with an internship in advertising, which was at Prime Media. Prime Media has got owns a couple of radio stations, and that is where I fell in love with what I do. So I moved around corporate, and I worked for different broadcasters. I've worked for the SABC, and um, as an ambitious person, I always was looking for gaps, and I knew the gaps that were there in the industry. I knew that one of the gaps that was there was the decision makers in our industry, like for instance, when it comes to advertising decisions, were not people of the same color, and sometimes they would have to make decisions on advertising on African language stations. So that was the niche that I identified, and I then started Nubia Advertising and Promotion after having worked for the SABC. Now, talking about the huge transition from corporate to self-employment it is so big. The transition is so huge, and I think anyone that has moved from corporate to self-employment would agree with me that a lot of the things you don't know. Your mentality revolves around employment, and you expect the same, and you think it is exactly going to be the same experience. You look at how good you are in your job, and you're thinking running your company will just be exactly the same. It's totally different. Um, in fact, I got a shock of my life, got bruised here and there, lost some of the things because, as you know, as you grow in corporate, you are what advertisers are playing for. You typically are targeted by all sorts of things that you could consume. You get offered loans, you get offered a bond with ease, you get offered anything that you require that is financial. So obviously, not having done a business before, then I'm thinking, okay, fine, it is exactly going to be the same thing, and I'm just going to be moving, and I will just be able to pay myself the same salary, if not more. Shock of my life, that was not to be. That was a change. Nothing could have prepared me for that type of a change. Now I had to figure things out. It was like starting from internship, going back and starting where I started basically, even though I already had a couple of years experience. Do I regret the change? No, I did not, because it was the most fulfilling thing. Bruising as it was, challenging as it was the most fulfilling thing for me. It was what I had always wanted. But the only thing that I needed to work around was to embrace the change and whatever that it comes with. One of the things that I had to learn was to downgrade my lifestyle, and that was painful because I defined myself with what I had. Remember when I started this conversation, I said I avoid defining myself with what I have. So that was a stretch for me. I had to look deep down and ask myself, who are you without the beamer that you were driving, that you could afford because you had a good job, and all of that? Who are you without the friends that you were associated with? Who are you without all these dreams that were attached to your financial status, basically? And for me, that was an eye opener. At some point, I learned to downgrade. I learned to start and respect the process and start things from scratch and gradually build. But painful as that was, it built my character. It built my character to a point that even when I get media interviews and I am being profiled, I avoid those profiles that would make the other people feel bad, that would make other people feel as if they are not doing enough if they are counting that they have been in business for 5 years and they have not reached a turnover of however many millions. That humbled me. So I don't do those things because I understand that everyone's journey is unique. Why I understand that? Because my journey was equally unique. And had someone who walked the journey before me told me those, I would not have put myself under pressure. So for most probably the first 5 years, I was still stuck in wanting the things that I had planned that I would have at a certain time while I was in corporate. I wanted it all. I wanted, the marriage. I wanted the children. I wanted this. I wanted, you name it. The things that we aspire for. But change is an opportunity because it teaches you to revisit. It teaches you to revisit and you start from scratch and you then build whatever it is that you wanted to build. Now, I want to talk to someone who is saying that I am in a process of making a few changes in my life. I have done everything by the book, but I find myself in a situation where I've just gone through a divorce that forces me to start afresh. COVID brought about some challenges where I have lost my job. Or I had a job, but I felt that I was ready to jump. I was ready for something bigger. And I have gone and I have started something, but I am not seeing the results. Hold on, because the results will take time before you can see them. Downgrade if you have to, try if you have to, because it's very important to grieve for the things that you have lost. But don't stay there. Don't stay in that stage where you are grieving to a point that you do not see the opportunities that are brought about by the new opportunities that is there. One thing that I would say is it passes. It passes. It is just a phase. It is not easy. Business is not easy, and this is not to scare anyone. There is a reason why it is not easy. So, but we also need to balance the truth with not scaring people. It is not easy. It takes time to build, but you eventually get it right. Without necessarily going to things like the monies and everything, because this is not supposed to be a bragging contest where you say, but you eventually get to exactly that stage where you were at in corporate, where you were stable, where you knew what you've got, and where you could plan. So change is not an enemy. It will happen to all of us in different areas of our life. It is not an enemy. It's just got to be embraced because the more you resist it and the more you do not want to embrace it, is the harder your life becomes. And what then happens is then you suffer from things like, mental illness. You bring stress that is not necessary. I think what I've also observed is that we sometimes don't have people that we can talk to. Why I agreed to this was that I wanted to be that person that people know that they can talk to me and they know what they can talk to me about. We don't know. When you lose in your house, you are so consumed in blaming yourself and you can't even share with people because you fear being judged, that you mismanaged your finances. Luckily, I've lived through the 2008 recession. I was working at the time, but I was affected. So for me, when COVID came, it was like, okay, this is like it's a different challenge, but I I looked at it like with the same eyes, and I said it will definitely pass. So I just want to say to whoever that is listening today and that is saying that okay, fine, I can't see the result. whoever is doubting themselves and saying, but I thought I was good in what I do, what went wrong? Why am I not making the money that it will come? Money will come, you will just have to focus. I don't even do things like, you will never ever ever hear me saying or support. Well, I suppose also because my business is like a business to business type of a business, and I know exactly where to find clients, and I never have to maybe advertise heavily on the likes of your social media and all that. But even if I had to, I would never ever, you would never hear me saying, oh, you know what, you need to support me because I am Black. Create value. And once you have created the value, then clients will start looking for you. But that takes a while to get to a point where clients just literally just own you. They know that this is what they can trust you on. They know that this is what you do. It takes a while because you see, when I worked for the SABC, it was easier for me. I could go to any ad agency, I could go to any advertiser, and they knew who SABC was. But when I then went and I was presenting the baby, which is Nubia Advertising and Promotion, that is unheard of. Different story altogether. You get reluctant in everything, but you don't try support and say support me, because now you're messing up with the value that you are giving. So be consistent, create the value, and eventually you will then attract whatever that it is that you want to attract. And I guess I'm using one example, but it's a principle thing. Even if we were talking about relationships where you maybe like moved from one relationship to another, you work on yourself, you build yourself, and eventually you attract, the type of a partner, if that's what you desire, the type of a partner that you want to attract. I'm going to pause, guys, and ask if there are any questions so far.
You have said a mouthful, and thank you for sharing that. And it's like we're having this telepathic communication, because I was about to ask you questions based on what you say. And thank you. And talking about embracing change, and also for myself, and this has been something which has been a common thing throughout the conversation we've had about knowing yourself. And to someone who's saying, what do you mean I need to know myself? If you need assistance with that, I'm a coach. I've also got programs where I help people to know themselves, to find their purpose and all that. Because even with what already Nozibele has said, your mindset is key in what you're doing. And if you don't change your mindset, you are gonna have challenges, and you're just gonna let go and just give up on those challenges that you're gonna face. So it's quite important you have that. And she also mentioned about consistency. If you've got a business, and create value wherever you are. I've got a follow-up question on what you mentioned in terms of transitioning from corporate to business. For you, what were the foundations or the key elements that had to be in place before you even moved from corporate? Ooh, I lost her. Okay, my question was, what were her key fundamentals that she had to have to move from corporate to be an entrepreneur, to run her own business? Let's just see if she'll join me. Network, it's not on our side. And if she doesn't come back, we'll do a recording, and then we'll just save it for you guys. And to those who have joined in, thank you. Welcome, Charity. Welcome, Wendy, whilst we wait for my guests to retire. And then welcome, Nontlantla, and welcome, Lihle. If you've got questions for Nozibele, do type them through. Just a summary on what she spoke. Yes, she's coming back now. She spoke about embracing change, and the fact that you need to know yourself, and the fact that she's in the media industry. She started there as an intern, and then she went through up the ladder, and she fell in love with media, and now she owns her business, which is Nubia Advertising and Promotions. And she also shared about what happens when you move, when you start your own business, the challenges and the fact that you have to downgrade. And I believe what she shared today earlier, that message will resonate with so many people because at the moment, with what is happening with COVID, people are being retrenched, a lot is happening, and there's a high inflation in terms of food. Whatever you used to buy, if you were spending 1,000 Rand on food last year, now you just get half of the grocery that you're buying. So it's just about relooking at your life. And she also mentioned the fact of getting out of your comfort zone because that is how you grow. And she also emphasized that we need to balance the truth in terms of, you hear people saying going to your business, starting your business is challenging, but there's the beauty because you learn so much about yourself. So whilst I was waiting for her, she's back again. I was just summarizing her and also emphasizing that if you need help, I'm here to help you. It's a transformational quote. If you are having difficulties in your life and you don't know what to do and you feel like you don't have someone to talk to. And part of join the conversation is to have people from different walks of life just to share their lessons, not to say they're experts in what they do, it's just to share because at times we're just so scared to talk about what we do and all that and to just share because we've got that shit. We feel like people will judge us and social media having it at our fingertips, we are just scared to be honest, to be congruent and to be intentional wherever we are. So yeah, welcome once again. So my question, Nozibele, before you left was in terms of you moving from corporate to starting your own business, what were the key fundamentals that you had to have before you even have that move? And one of them you mentioned it was mindset. What was other thing? Let's say someone is just there on that verge and say, now I've had it. What can they do?
Hi, hello.
Yes, I can hear you. Just unmute yourself. It's showing that you. Okay.
Yeah. I have unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. So
Okay.
before you speak, guys,
So
if you- if you've got questions, just type them through, and also throughout whilst we're talking, just write what were the key takeaways that you have learned so far from the conversation. You can go ahead.
my apologies, guys. I don't know what is going on. Hey, I just battling with. I'm literally like on two networks, but I don't know. I keep losing you. So yeah, I hope you can just indicate and let me know if you can hear me. Key fundamentals. One, it was just to make sure that you know what you are going to do. And for me, what I did was I planned everything. Um, so yeah, I did everything. I had to plan everything to the T before I even moved. Unfortunately, I could not. Some people advise you that you need to have the business on the side while you are employed. In my case, it would have been so I couldn't have done the business on the side while I was still employed. Our industry is very small. So I would have set myself up for failure even before I started. So I had to do whatever was possible, which was, just registering the business and building the relationship and just working on myself, the confidence and defining actually what is it that I will be doing, the how, the when, and that whole goal setting. But a lot of the work was done when I I had already left and I had gone. And I had so much confidence because, like I said, I thought it was gonna be the same as being employed. I knew the clients that I would target, but the business has got its own rules, guys. It doesn't work like that. You start from scratch. Um, Being employed is like looking after somebody's house, whereas when it's your own business, it's like you don't have options of saying, I can just give this child to someone for like 6 months or a year or something like that. There is no break. The buck stops with you. So you do every single thing before you can even afford to pay for services that you are not good at. You've got to be familiar with everything and know so that when you are financially in a position to then hire someone for things that you're not maybe not good at, that you feel that you could outsource. At least you know exactly. So it was mostly like upskilling myself and making sure that I've got everything that is needed. And obviously, just being flexible as well because the market gives you feedback. So sometimes you tell yourself, this is what I'm going to do, and things just take a different turn than what you had anticipated and what you had planned. So you've got to keep that, make sure that you are not stuck up in the way that you've always wanted to do things. I remember at some point I was sending out the proposals, but I was not getting them signed off. I was not getting campaigns and all of that. And I then had to think of a plan. Some people, I think even some of my Facebook friends know me because I then at some point ran a domestic worker placement agency. And for me, that was not the passion, that was not the reason why I had gone to business in the first place. My passion had always been in media, in what I had studied and what I wanted to do. But I had to survive. I had to survive while I was building what I wanted to do. And then when I felt that, okay, fine, I was getting campaigns and I would maybe get a campaign that could keep me going for a couple of months and look after my salary. Then I dropped that and then I started focusing and doing all of that. Obviously, there's other like complementary service, which was, like your graphic designing and printing and all of that. But those are under branding. They still fall around the advertising. But day to day, what I was doing was just basically it's knocking at doors, at advertisers' doors, and also liaising with the media platforms and making sure that okay, the advertiser's message is being communicated effectively and the media platforms are doing what they should be doing just to make sure that the objectives are met. So it was that and people skills, which is very, very important. I know that generally, all clients, they expect the best, they are demanding and all of that you cannot drop balls. You cannot, your client services has to be like, you have to make sure that when you compared to others, because then if you're not offering excellent client service and things like those and you fall short on those, that is where you will then go and want to be supported on the basis that you are a black, you miss the business principles and you then start asking people to support you. And I think for me, that whole thing of asking for support is actually asking people to excuse bad business practices that they could potentially receive, like for instance, not communicating properly, not doing things right, not delivering, and I don't know if there is another question, a follow-up question to what I've just said.
I just love what you've just mentioned as well, and I do have a follow-up question. But in terms of what you mentioned about the skills that you learned, people skills, and also client services, and the notion of asking for support, I believe you have explained it better than I've ever had. So thank you for sharing that. And you also mentioned whilst you were starting your business in terms of in media, you had to go and do domestic work placement. As much as you're no longer doing it, what were the lessons, let's say to someone who wants to do that, what were the key lessons that you learned from in that brief time that you were doing that business?
You're strange enough, you know how I started that business, and it's actually the reason why I didn't continue with it was I was just like swimming and not knowing what to do. It was just purely like I said, you know, when you in my industry, in the communications space. So when my child was small, I don't know, I did not plan. I didn't even have a business plan for that business. But I remember I just had people phoning and saying, "Don't you know, Auntie? You know, I've got children, and I'm looking for Auntie." And actually, who encouraged me to start that business was my child's father, and he was like, "You are always getting calls. I think it's high time that you charge people for this service because you're always getting calls, and somehow you always know the right domestic workers to recommend." And I did not plan. And because I did not plan, when you have not planned something, you don't even have systems in place. I remember, I don't even remember who was the first client that I charged and what I was basing my placement fee on. But what I didn't do right there was I made the business about myself. So I was the alpha and omega of the business, which then got too demanding and it was tiring because as it grew and as the word of mouth kept on spreading, people would call me and I just was not coping. I could not sit with my family because then I would have between people that are looking for domestic workers, clients, I mean, looking for domestic workers, and more aunties that are asking, I want to come and register at the agency. How do I go about doing that? So it just became too cumbersome. I was just disorganized. And as much as, you know, clients did not pick that up, I had, I mean, I know how to do the PR and everything, and but it became too draining for me. So I guess to answer your question, to say if anyone wants to go into that business, the planning is very important. And don't ever make a mistake of making the business about you. I know it is an achievement when you tell people that this is me, you know, this is, you know, I'm this and that black business woman that is happening and all of that. Do not get into that step because what will happen is you will be off, you will be sick, and clients would have gotten used to dealing with you and they will refuse to deal with whoever that is there. So for me, it was very difficult to because clients had gotten used to the personal touch, but I could not give a personal touch to everyone. They had gotten used to the fact that they could just chat to me for about an hour and tell me about their family, about their challenges, about how many times they've changed the domestic workers. And so the lesson that I learned, even with the current business, the one that I'm running right now, I try and not be the only person and to a point that the business does not run when I'm not there. I know it's difficult because see it's easy when you just talk when people hear you talking about advertising and ads on radio, they don't realize what goes behind the scenes and everything. And yes, you do require a certain skill. So You can't just wake up and say, I'm going to run an advertising agency. There's a whole lot that goes into the whole advertising before you can actually hear the ad on air. But try as much as you can to get assistance. And even if it means you have to pay, as soon as you are able to get an assistant, even if they are freelancing, they assist you for like 2 days, 3 days, is the burden because it will overstretch you and you will be so exhausted. It will actually like you will never take breaks. I take breaks, for instance, in December when most of the clients are also like away. But I take breaks because I feel like I owe it to myself to I need to actually, sometimes take that break. I need to be kind to myself. I need to recharge as well. I cannot be working. There is nothing glamorous about working at night. I sleep at night. I don't subscribe to the belief that, I'm on an hustle mode. I'm burning the midnight oil and all of that. No, I still have another life outside the business. I still have to be a good mother to my child. I still have to be present to my family. So those are the things that we neglect and that we should remind ourselves of because otherwise you get you burn out and there's only one you basically you burn out, you get hospitalized. It's actually worse than you taking a break for a day or two because you've got a choice and you can always go back to work.
Wow, that was a mouthful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I trust there's someone who's going to receive that message and just learn from it. And you just touched on something about taking a break, and it just resonates with what we're talking about in the earlier discussion, which I had with Mutsilisi about self care and self love. And at times we don't do it, and we just feel like being superwomen will help us. And if you are a person who's struggling with that, just ask yourself what is really happening. And if you don't know what to do, ask for help and find someone who can help you. And in terms of self-care and mindset, maybe you can combine both because you spoke about mindset that is it's key when we started. How do you do that? What does it mean to have a growth mindset and self-care to someone? Because at times we use this terminology and we just think like it's so easy to someone and everyone understand. How would you simplify it to someone who's listening to now?
I think I'm going to combine them. First of all, um, just being in business, you need to be a leader somehow. And I think leadership starts with self. The reason why we would battle with self care is because we are battling with self leadership, if I may put it that way. So if you are battling with leading yourself, there is nothing else that you are going to get right because you are going to project what is inside. So it's a conscious decision. It takes some reflection. It takes you admitting things that you may not be comfortable admitting sometimes, so that you can identify where the problem is and fix where it is. So it really is, it does catch up with you. If you don't do that exercise, it does catch up with you because before you know it, things start falling apart. But things falling apart sometimes just mean that you are failing to lead yourself. Self-care, there's different things that you can do. And one of them I mentioned that it's also like if you can plan well, there is no reason why you will be working at night. If you are kind to yourself, there is no way that unless you have to, there is no way that you are going to be working 365 days a year. It also means identifying what is it that you are doing wrong and fixing. Because sometimes we know, but we don't. actually know how to fix it, which then takes us back to the likes of maybe getting a coach. You get a coach and you ask for help in areas where you are failing to do it on your own.
Thank you for that. And as you were speaking, there's a comment from Ulihle from Facebook to say, wow, being a leader starts with leading yourself. That is very powerful. And that is so true because if you don't know yourself, if you can't lead yourself, how do you expect to lead? Because you cannot give from an empty cup. And Nosy as well just mentioned that if you don't know how to do this, find a coach, and I can be that coach to you. You can contact me as well to help you find who you are and transform you. And thank you so much, Nosy, for sharing this nuggets of wisdom. As we're about to end, what is your final words to us? And before you answer that question, I would like you to answer this one. You have shared this message with us. Why was it so important to you that you come and share it with us?
Okay. I've shared this message because I well, there was a platform that was created, which I'm grateful for. But I also feel like there's always an opportunity for us as women to make a difference. It may not necessarily be going out of our way and looking for that platform at all costs and you wanting to share things that you have not even mastered. In fact, when I began this conversation, I said it's all about sharing lived experiences, not from an expert perspective, but also for just sharing what you know. Everything that I have said today is something that I know that I would say, even if you woke me up at 3 a.m., I would feel the same thing. It is my experience, it is undisputed, but it is by no means saying that that's the only way of doing things. What I'm an advocate for is living your purpose, and only you know what that purpose is. So, in you living the purpose, there will be distractions along the way. Do not allow those distractions to deter you. Rise above them until you are satisfied and you are at a point, because those distractions, you are only going through them. You are not meant to stay there. So do not allow yourself to dwell, to stay where you are meant to go through. I guess that is my message, that distractions will always be there. Sometimes they are in a form of a change. Sometimes, they are in a form of maybe people doing things to us, but those people are not the issue. Focus on yourself. They are just vehicles that are used maybe to distract you. And there is nothing personal about life. There is nothing personal. It is all about, giving us those experiences so that we can always overcome, bounce back, and ultimately land to where we are meant to be, which is the purpose that we have been created for, and die empty. So those are my final words.
Thank you so much. And I trust the message that we had today has created awareness and it has empowered someone out there and it has inspired someone out there. And the key as well comes back to being an authentic self, finding who you are, because you cannot give from an empty space. And as well, if you need assistance in terms of the coach, I'm here to help you. I can help you with that. I do have programs on terms of that. And it has been an awesome time. And I see we still have people on Facebook who are still listening to this. Guys, do share on your timelines and the nuggets will change somebody's life. And if you're on YouTube, just subscribe and share to people who need to hear this message because it's all about creating those conversations. And wherever you are, you don't have to wait for Zoom or any platform to start those conversations. You can start them wherever you are. even if it's 2 people or a small group or in Stockfells, create an awareness and let's educate each other. Because everyone's story is there to heal someone, is there to empower someone. So never take your story for granted and judge yourself and believe that it won't heal someone, because we are forever judging and you never know that that message that you have, the experience that you have been through, is the diamond that everyone is looking for, so that you can illuminate this earth and make it a better place to live. And thank you so much to everyone who has joined in. The next session that we're going to have is on Thursday. So it will be at 6 p.m. So do tune in. We've got another remarkable woman who will be joining us. And guys, do. It's not only for women, because even this message that has been shared today can be applied by both men and females, even for young people. And if you've got young people in your timeline who wants to join media, who wants to open their business, who are working, just share. You'll find out that is what they need to hear as well. And yeah, God bless. We love you and take good care of yourselves and have a lovely week and be intentional
Thank you
in
so
what
much.
you're doing. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, guys. Thank you.